As of Friday evening, there are no wrongfully detained Americans in Venezuela, and we want to keep it that way. We are committed to doing everything we can to prevent one American national from being wrongfully detained by the Venezuelan regime ever again. To this end, I want to reiterate our clear warning. No one should go to Venezuela. We have the risk, certainly, of wrongful detention of Americans, of dual nationals, of lawful permanent residents. Whoever you are, don't go there. The risk is extremely high. Americans who travel to Venezuela or nearby border regions risk being wrongfully detained for months or even years, and release is never a guarantee. You can stop that yourself by not going to Venezuela. Further, the days of unelected health bureaucrats in Geneva running over the American people are over. It's a good day. In collaboration with the Department of Health and Human Services, we formally notified the World Health Organization of our rejection of the 2024 International Health Regulations amendments, which were set to become legally binding regardless of our WHO withdrawal. The 2024 IHR amendments broadened the WHO's mandate to include not only public health emergencies of international concern, but also, quote, events or conditions that may have the potential to become emergencies. How nice for them. This allows the WHO to deem what constitutes an international threat. We know from COVID-19 that an expanded international health bureaucracy will use their authority to centralize decision-making, stifle scientific debate, and censor free speech. Rejecting the 2024 IHR amendments reaffirms our position that U.S. public health policy will be shaped by Americans for Americans. And with our HHS colleagues, we are proud on delivering that mandate. And today, the United States informed Director General Audrey Azoulay of the United States' decision to withdraw from the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, also known, of course, as UNESCO. Continued involvement in UNESCO is not in the national interest of the United States. UNESCO works to advance divisive social and cultural causes and maintains an outsized focus on the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, a globalist ideological agenda for international development at odds with our America First foreign policy. UNESCO's decision to admit the, quote, state of Palestine, end quote, as a member state is highly problematic, contrary to U.S. policy, and contributed to the proliferation of anti-Israel rhetoric within the organization. Continued U.S. participation in international organizations will focus on advancing American interests with clarity and conviction. Based on President Trump's executive order, continued participation in international organizations is under review, and this is one result of that review, confirming the importance of making sure that all of what we do comports with the America First agenda. And finally, in today's topper, President Donald Trump met with Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in Washington, D.C., following Secretary Rubio's meeting with President Marcos yesterday. Both meetings reaffirmed the ironclad United States-Philippines alliance as vital to peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region, while advancing closer economic ties, including supply chain cooperation. Secretary Rubio announced plans to work with Congress to provide $15 million for private sector development in the Luzon Economic Corridor, part of a broader, more than $60 million initiative focused on energy, maritime issues, and economic growth. Both sides committed to regular high-level engagement as allies, particularly ahead of the 80th anniversary of the U.S.-Philippines diplomatic relations in 2026. So that is coming up, and I will now take your questions, and we'll go to Nadia.
Thank you, Tammy. I have two quick questions. The first one is quick. The second is not that quick. The first one is about Syria. It's reported that Ambassador Tom Barak is going to chair a security meeting between between Israel and Syria. Is this to avoid the scenario we seen last week? Can you elaborate on this potential meeting between them?
Well, what I can tell you is that all parties have reached a cessation of hostilities. We are calling on the Syrian government to lead on the next steps and hold all perpetrators of violence accountable for their actions. The United States government supports Syria's national unity and a peaceful and inclusive resolution with its minority constituents. I did speak with the Secretary briefly, actually just before coming up here, which is why I was a little bit late. But he expressed his optimism regarding the current situation, that there needed, the Syrian government agreed to a boundary to not go in to the Soweto area, but that there would be a boundary to make sure that jihadists were also not going in, to maintain some part of the peace, if you will. And he was enthusiastic about that was unfolding properly, and that everyone involved in the atrocities would be held accountable. And that could include people who also may be affiliated with the Syrian government. Obviously, a good opportunity for them to show their commitment to what needs to be achieved there. Yes,
Caroline, your colleague said that President Trump, and I want to quote him just to be precise, she said that President Trump hated seeing pictures of starvation of women and children trying desperately to get to the aid. He wants to see it done in a peaceful manner. As you know, there's 1,000 people have been killed around the food distribution center. So how can the State Department or the administration fulfill the president's statement of what he said now to make sure that the food amount is increased more than the 80 million that you mentioned to us before, and to make sure that people are secure and not killed while they're trying to get the food?
Right. That is clearly our North Star. It is the thing that is uppermost in mind for the president, to still get peace so that these issues are no longer issues. Also, in my conversation with the Secretary, he has noted that Special Envoy Witkoff is heading to the region now, to the Gaza area. And we all have, as the President and the Secretary and the envoy, a strong hope that we will come forward with another ceasefire, as well as a humanitarian corridor for aid to flow, that both sides have in fact agreed to this. So we are looking forward to that arrangement and to a possible framework, again, regarding a ceasefire. Remember, we had one before, which Hamas broke. But what the Secretary indicated was, again, an aid corridor that needs to be set up, that both sides have agreed to, that the humanitarian situation, of course, has been a main focus of what our concern has been, obviously. And so I'm hoping, as I mentioned to some of you earlier in the day in our conversation, that each day has the potential to have this be better. We're working on it constantly. And so I would suggest that we might have some good news. But again, as we know, this can be constantly a changing dynamic.
He's going to the Gaza area?
Correct. He's going to the region. Well, let me just say, this is a very quick conversation. It was on the telephone. He said the area, he said Gaza, the area. Now, of course, it could be, we have many, many partners there, many allies. So keep that in mind when it comes to the specific location of the envoy. I do not have that, but it's in a dynamic to where we're looking to finalize this arrangement. Yes, Andrea Mitchell. Hi there.
Thank you very much. Recognizing that, as you've stated many times, as we know, Hamas started this and can finish it.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to take it from there, from where you just left
yes.
off. Is there recognition now that it is important to establish aid outside of that southern area in Rafah so that it is more accessible to people who don't have to travel these distances and deal with the IDF confrontations that inevitably have occurred? And I'd just like to follow up on that as well.
Right. It's been always the intention, obviously, to have as many sites as possible. And again, it's been the difficulty of being in a war zone and what you can do and what you can arrange. The fact that we've had 3 sites up, and I think now it is nearly 85 million meals to date at the distribution centers that do exist. Clearly, it's not just a dynamic of wanting more distribution centers in a war zone. Our goal is to have not a war zone, and the aid corridor that the Secretary mentioned to me, so that multiple entities can deliver aid and whatever is needed in that region without being eluded and hijacked by Hamas.
Now, the initial plan, as it had been described to us, was that the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation would have...
Well, it really is called that. It's not. It's really called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, but go ahead.
Well, they call themselves the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
Yes, ma'am.
That they would be using American contractors or other contractors for security. As it's turned out, it seems to be more IDF, and that's been possibly one of the causes of the problems that, as was just
There's
mentioned, it's been 1,000 deaths.
supposition there. So
Doctors have pointed out that people are coming in with, heavy wounds from heavy artillery. Is the possibility of having some sort of neutral contractors as the security force rather than the IDF?
Well, that, of course, presupposes that IDF soldiers who are in a mode of defense of their country are deliberately shooting civilians and children.
I didn't suggest that.
Well, that is the implication that you need someone who's, not involved implies that it would be better. It is a dynamic where, and I think even a horrible situation over this weekend regarding a UN convoy in Zikim at a crossing, that more than 30 people were killed in that dynamic trying to access food, because that is the focus of every human being. This has got to end. Well, not every human being, but certainly Hamas is preferring the way things have been. This was at a crossing in northern Gaza, and there are certainly Hamas is injured by the inability to hijack this food and to hijack trucks. And they are injured by the success of GHF and what it's been doing, because they have not just looted these trucks, but they've weaponized the money that they make from this food, and then they control the population with it. It is the success of GHF has removed, by getting meals in at that number is a tremendous success, but it's removed the power and the influence of Hamas financially and with using aid and food as a weapon itself to control people. So it is, I think that the UN knows this, everyone else has seen this, that it's not a dynamic, and I've got the GHF statement here as well for you, but I think no matter who has been trying to deliver food, they've known historically and recently that there's going to be, and as long as Hamas still has its weapons and is still a player in that region, there's still going to be problems. The GHF statement regarding this last massacre, if you will, we're deeply saddened by reports that more than 30 people were killed while trying to access food from a UN convoy at the Zikim crossing in northern Gaza as humanitarian efforts face escalating violence. Like most incidents, this incident is not linked to GHF, despite what was falsely implied by various newspapers. These tragedies deserve visibility. The entire aid system is under immense strain. We hope reporters will cover these incidents with the same scrutiny GHF receives, because understanding the full picture is essential to protecting civilians and improving aid delivery.
And have you seen the statement by 28 countries led by some of our closest allies in Europe?
Yes. And, I think it's nice to know, and many of certainly it's our allies and friends, it's a demand for the war in Gaza to stop. And we, of course, we've taken actions on that, I think, as we've seen, and we wonder why certain things have continued unabated, or at least in a kind of a perpetual loop, is because strongly worded letters don't stop this madness. Strongly worded letters won't stop Hamas. Strongly worded letters wouldn't stop Iran. Strongly worded letters are fine, and it's good to know where people stand. I appreciate that very much. The United States, through the leadership of President Trump, and the guidance and the hand also of Secretary Rubio, and of our remarkable envoys, put their lives at risk, take action, make decisions, confront important questions, sometimes when it works, when it doesn't work, But it's more, and sometimes strongly worded tweets and letters in the midst of the actions that we are taking. So we appreciate their sentiment, but I think that the fact of the matter is that we have a history here of recognizing that we've had work to implement what they issue as their desire for the war to stop, and we've been taking action on that. So we know that the conflicts which we are trying to end do not end because of letters or even conferences, but because of intense diplomatic efforts. We are leading that effort alongside Egypt and Qatar. And as I mentioned earlier, we are hoping for some rapid responses coming up soon. Yes, sir.
I think